Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. The title has arrived. Individual impatience immobilizes potential collective efficiency. And I would like to begin by dividing this episode into three parts, really. First, what does the way I think, guys, just to let people know. First of all, a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, Aristotle has said it's the sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. Second thing to keep in mind, I share models in these talks, models of ways of looking at things. And the third thing to consider is that when I speak or when I communicate or when I even listen, anything I listen, anything I hear, it becomes an image to me. So when I read a sentence, I am actually looking for a movie in it. Do you know? Not a movie, but an image representation. So for example, for this episode, I've divided it into three parts where the individual impatience, what's an example of that? What image can we have of a scenario where individual impatience doesn't allow a sort of collective efficiency to occur? You know, the next thing is the immobility. How does it immobilize the potential collective efficiency? And the last is what the potential collective efficiency is. Really a past, present, future to the episode. You know, people in different parts of the world, at different times in the world, have perceived their personality within the universe. What I mean by that is we have personified not just atoms in the mirror, but we have personified the universe. Because we are a person, we are comprehending things through, I don't know, archetypal personality events, if I can say that. Let us attempt to not per se from a religious context to personify the universe as they did in the 6th century, but from a Jungian psychological perspective. What that means is Carl Jung spoke about the mind, and he spoke about the conscious mind and the unconscious, and that the effort of the conscious mind, this effort of this small candle light of a range of information human being you are, the effort of it is to make its unconscious conscious. Now, I thought about this idea on a level where I was like, okay, let's think about a planetary mind. Let us think of a mind that is even, you can even surpass planetary, but let's stick with planetary for this metaphor, for this example. If the planet had a mind, we could say the planet is composed of a range of conscious events and then a surrounding unconscious event. What I'm trying to say is if we could see the same way we categorize our personality, it would be the known and unknown dimensions of the world. Now, to think about the individual, I mean, I've been on to this idea for a while now. I've spoken about the inner realms and the outer realms. But recently, I've also noticed that there seems to be another filtering axis. And what that is that there was this study that said that, I mean, I should have probably said this earlier, but because we have two brain hemispheres, there's this view that there's two urges of the person, of the psyche. That in some sense, actually, just like how we have two eyes that see the same, we are in some sense two senses of self that are in some sense being one moment, one sense of self. Now, this is not the way I typically divide it in these talks in regards to objective, subjective, but I would say in regards to the left brain hemisphere having an urge for analysis and the right brain hemisphere having an urge towards the creative, towards the free. One is trying to expand the system, the other is trying to find the precise limits to the system. So what does that mean? That means if the person covers their right eye, imagine, just like the eyes, if you cover the right eye, you don't have balance. Let's say you're a footballer, a goalkeeper, a goalie, and it's a World Cup penalty. If you have one eye covered, literally, let's say a pirate comes and gives his eye patch to you and you're a goalkeeper, you know? And for some reason you take this eye patch and you want to dodge, you want to grab the ball. Now when the ball is kicked, because the other eye is blocked, there is a sort of sensory miscalculation. So the person, if you actually run with one eye open, you can't run properly unless you're very consciously calculating what's missing, the other eye. So similarly, we can say that if we are just creative, one eye is closed, we don't have balance in our psyche. We can say if we're just purely analytical, the death of creativity. Do you know? Because creativity has to make mistakes. Creativity has to do what the madman calls his home. You know, you see that there's this Michel Foucault, this French philosopher, he spoke about something very interesting, that back in the day, kings had jesters. And there were the strange people of the world were not so quickly here's the thing. The whole thing about Michel Foucault is he's saying that it's like there was a time where things weren't institutionalized. Our values were very relaxed, as if nature didn't care that much about specifics. But as institutionalization began, the specification of ways of behavior, modes of behavior, I can tell you it's strange. We have built a cultural program that we cannot live without. And when I say cultural program, all cultural programs fit the model of being some program the person is running. Do you know? Like I sit here and you might, this may sound strange, but if I sit too much for still and silent, I become a nameless being. And when I become a nameless being, it is on some sense, in certain states, you can say it's dangerous in the outer realms because you lose opinion. But the thing is, on the other side, you move. So it's kind of like we are changing gears between being a body that is howling, this mind projected, mind brain projection, you know? And on another level, we are the unknown free will, spontaneous ability to change direction regardless of the rational calculation. You see, the thing is not about what is right and wrong, because every point in history had their own opinions, really. What it is we are trying to find what is the most efficient way to I mean, honestly, this is the only not the only game, but the mind's game is to find its truth. The mind is trying to remember and the body is trying to forget. The body forgets because it is temporary. The mind doesn't forget because it's not a form, it's the mover of form. The mover of form is not a form. It can't be even defined by the form. Individual impatience, an example to serve the first part. I will give you an individual impatience example of myself. I was driving and I wanted to go left. I'm a pretty good driver. I mean, keep that in mind. But it was as if like I was impatient and I wanted to make a left, and there was another car. Just I can't explain, but just I moved too quick and I caused inefficiency. And when that car stopped, the other car behind it panicked a bit, and literally it was like this hassle that eventually I just had to maneuver totally around everything and like. But what it was that it was individual impatience. That means that you don't get, I would say, we judge higher speeds more heavily than lower speeds. And when the person sees the lower speed as the suggestion to the simple, let's say you're a car and your gas is running out, okay? The gas of your car is running out and your car becomes super slow and you're driving super slow and you're pulled over and you explain the situation, you know? The whole idea is that this going slow is less judged than going fast. That's my point. I don't want to say it's ultimately always going slow is not judged. But the thing is, at least when the person goes a bit slower than what they can control, they start at a level where they had control. Think of it as if like a video game, and you in the video game have reached a complex point. Now you can either relocate, move from this complex point, or you have to go back the path you came from. I'll give you an example. For example, I know this deep down. I haven't done it. I've been smoking for some years now, and I have to reverse engineer. I know that deep down that I have to go back to the first moment where I decided to smoke a cigarette. I know that the key is there, the key to the door. Because the thing is, the person is constantly making decisions, and these decisions lead to new personas. The persona, as Carl Jung explains it, is a mask. Think of it, new ideological mask. Every day the person wakes up, yo, new day, and new mask. Even though it's not Halloween, but the species is wearing masks in society. That is the truth of the realm. We need a bit of artificialness to discover our truths in, believe it or not. In a strange way, you can say a species can't make a mistake. And what that means is if it does make mistakes, it has references, it has a database, it has something to no longer make the mistake. And if it doesn't make a mistake, well, great. So either smooth advancement or detour. So every person who has ever made a mistake, I mean, the first thing is honestly to try to fix it instantly. Try to be like a cobra and instantly fix your mistakes, I would say. You know? Because I'm telling you, there is something that if a living being doesn't honor the presence of the moment as it is happening, let's say somebody, your friend is needs help and you don't help in that moment. You know, it's as if you have dishonored the presence of the moment, how the moment was present. You know. The thing is, individual impatience is never worth it, and the person immediately gets pushed into their own inner realm room, and people notice it. People definitely notice it. You know, that means it's like the moment a person gets angry, everybody's like, okay, what's up with that person? As if they have gone into a different room. You know? Honestly, I feel anger is possession, but not religious, metaphysical possession. It is possession from an event in the past. You know? That means when will we realize the true future has nothing to do with our past? That means it has got here by the past, but how cool is this? That I am sure, like generations before me of my own lineage, just every person's lineage, you know, your great-great-grandfather had seen some things about life that grandfather, let's say, knew that it wouldn't be passed to you. I know that now too. in my effort in these talks, it's like a lot of technologies are being lost, and they're being lost in the sense that the attention has stopped caring for what naturally comes to it, and through games of complexity, the world is running after coins that it cannot take with itself when the body is no longer with us. You see, it's all about establishing intelligence, not just in an objective confidence, not only in a subjective confidence, but in the rawness that whatever the object does, whatever the subject does, the moment stands. Energy could never die or be created or destroyed. That is true non-duality for those who are interested. Because the world doesn't realize it's on this walk once. You know, I'll be honest, the way the world, that our educational systems are, I will tell you, they do not inspire explorers. They just give an answer to the kid. They're like, all right, chew on this answer and shut up, and go on and eventually become, you know, the labor of a world that never cared for you. I mean, seriously, there has to be some sort of a reevaluation of meaning in accordance to what does it mean to be a simple living being. Then we build complex, then we entertain complex structures. That means first you got to find the pen, then you can write anything you want, But first you got to find the pen. And in order for a person to be able to use their intelligence and to find that pen for the inner realms, to navigate as a mind here, the person has to realize that before they were born, there was an event taking place of incredibly unknown proportions. And unless there is humility and sincerity to walk as a fool in the new world, I will tell you, right now, any art form, any craft, anything the person tries they have never done before. Let's say you're a person who has never tried an instrument and you want to just instantly learn an instrument. It's the same as climbing a mountain. Every step, every effort of engagement with the phenomena becomes a reference point. And these reference points eventually over time become a line of mastery. It is too easy to be hopeless now in 2020. There is, at the same time that we're like, oh my god, so many human beings, overpopulation, people's moral natures are deteriorating, the world is becoming a sort of ideological jello abomination. And the only thing that is our humanity's greatest chess move in 2020, I will tell you, what will make every living being who is alive now be cherished by history is that you can say every one of our ancestors were telling themselves a story of how much it didn't work. You know what it is? I actually don't feel that, like, I don't have the same feeling as if, like, my family is just a sort of biological disposition. I feel the psychology of every human being is echoing something. It's as if the universe is having a conversation alone with each DNA in the interior space, in the interior space of the building, not the building, the person. And really, to understand another person is like a miracle. I mean, honestly, there's something where when we realize how uniquely there is a division between our imaginations, that means two people can sit on the bus and they can imagine different things and they'll never know, or they can imagine the same thing and they'll never know, as if our mind's movement is in our subtler planes or subtler realms or inner realms or subjective. As we pay attention to not identifying with thought, not trying to extract our own face from a changing world, but to really be. I honestly feel that if we cannot learn to be in whatever era we are in, we failed at the humanity of that time. The whole thing that's missing is that I would say Marshall McLuhan and Buckminster Fuller, these two great minds, they saw ahead. We are missing the spaceship Earth mentality. We are missing uh, the collective inspiration for something that every individual will realize the collective heartbeat matters. So the immobilization of individual impatience is when you are impatient, you don't care. Because you want something quicker than it's coming to you, you know, the person becomes incredibly dismissive. And the potential collective efficiency is salvation. That if human beings realize, it's like we got our skeletal design in common. That's good enough. Everything else is just extra opinion. That we are a species. Where is that honor? Do you know? Where is the honor to build the hive mind? And it's the impatience that arises from the fear of mortality. That means the thing about mortality is the person can have whatever opinion on it, it will come. That's it. You don't have to run towards death. Death will come on its own. Do you know? But the point is, life is visiting you now. And so it's like we are in the domains and the jurisdiction of animate life. We're not trying to just be alive as bodies, but we're also trying to be alive as minds. And the existential scenario is very overwhelming. I'll tell you, like, I tend to laugh before I cry usually. But I don't know, guys, like, I just remembered a moment in my life where I remember I was crying and I was looking at my own face in the mirror and I just started laughing. Do you know? It's like sadness is important to experience it just to get the reference. You know, it's like, why do people go to theme parks just to get the experience, just to get the reference? It's like, been there, done that. And if we look at it on a purely designer level, all the emotions that justify or maybe lead to a lot of irrational actions go away. When we see extreme behavior in the global atmosphere, what we see is individuals feeling that what they are doing is absolute. It's a sort of self-absolute idealism. And every person has an axis. I've called it in other talks and works of mine as every person has a principal universal philosophy. What does that mean? That means you opened your eyes. Then they put a spoon full of a linguistic story. It's like the child wasn't the child wasn't just spoon-fed baby food, the child was spoon-fed the linguistic structure, enforced structure of the realm, you know for me, this is the thing, I'll tell you, all teachers, I think this is universal. If there's a teacher out there, I would say that in my school of thought, their concept of student teacher doesn't exist. Everybody is on an existential battlefield. But in our cultural programs, we have the concept of the student disciple idea. And let me tell you, the whole point is, if the student asks a question about the source of what is happening in the moment, the teacher gets fascinated. But if the teacher is like, okay, teacher, I heard you. Please shut up now so we can leave. You know? If the emotions of kids could talk, they would be so rude to the teachers of so many classrooms. The world may break you to yourself. The world may break others to themselves. The world may move in ways where we could never calculate or write on paper. The world could be a multidimensional event beyond the language threshold, a term designed to share, that be experience moves beyond language. That means, think about it. The dictionary didn't exist at some point. Where did it come from? Did God make the dictionary? No, some dude did. Do you know? Some dude made the dictionary. That means everything is man-made. Even the idea of man, which is the most beautiful paradox, one of those rare, I don't know, some philosophers in this world will run towards that gem. But like, the idea that man is man-made means free will is imprinting meaning. That means if something makes sense to us, we are seeing that meaning. If something doesn't make sense to us, you know, if something doesn't make sense to us, we have not seen the meaning, or we have not realized that an angle, a shift in perception, you know. I'm telling you, this is my technique that, I don't know, I'm not saying like my technique, like something I created, but what I'm saying, it's like this is something I use. Is that in any situation which is made ideologically impossible to be touched, what that means is, the thing is, because I live in a multidimensional realm, everything has dimensions. Every phenomena, the moment I say something singular, the moment I say, like right now there's a coffee cup in front of me, the moment I say coffee cup, this has become a point. And then I and the world are the circumference, and endless angles can be made. I can compare this coffee cup to that tree. Do you know, I can compare this coffee cup to the universal sector. Do you know, I can compare this coffee cup to another coffee cup that looks exactly like it. Do you see that it's all these angles of what do you do when your attention has come to a form? There is no such thing as, I would say, smart and stupid people, because it all has to do with the outcome of the species. Imagine we have a bunch of smart people, but the species goes extinct, based on foolish, desirous, intelligent, but desire-based ignorance. You see, it's like the moment we do something foolish, we have all been fools. The moment we do something great, we have all been great. And that is what it means to begin living as a species. That means, imagine in the future, like in my science fiction novel, I've kind of gone there. I'll tell you, imagine thousands of years from now, humanity not has just stuck around, but it has become incredibly advanced in communication, in perception, in everything. It's a new time with a new air, with a new world to see. When the unknown viewer realizes Earth was made in heaven, and heaven is the heavens. The word can work for both secular audiences and non-secular audiences. To learn to see our mind as the future of the species and to take care of that mind is the effort. I can tell you it's strange. Every day before I sleep, this is strange. It's like throughout the day, I experience maybe emotions if there is something, but usually it's a very smooth ride through the day. And at night, though, when I'm about to sleep, that's where a lot of emotions arise in me. It's like literally at the end of the night when I'm just like, when I've just lived through the day and just in the bed before my eyes close, that's where the emotions release. And even if the emotions release, the good thing is there's nothing to do. You just sleep. And it's really impossible to walk on the snow without leaving a footprint, technically. So the whole idea is that the way you step out of the karmic wheel is to realize the center of karma was never in the same universe that karma was. It's like if they were to ask, how do you build an advanced civilization? With the playfulness that realized its true home. You know, we are moments. We are ink drops on a page, on an empty page. The meaning has to be chosen, and if it is not chosen, the world chooses. Simply as that. Either you move your individualism, pretty much, how I feel the experience of transition out of this plane of existence physically is going to be like. It's literally going to be like a rent-a-car. A car you have rented for some time, you have been obsessed with your whole life to polishing this car, making it beautiful, but at the end, it is being returned to where it came from. Technically, it's rent-a-karma. And you return your karma back, you know? What does that mean? That means when you enter a house, you take off your shoes. And if you don't take off your shoes, that means you haven't thought as if like if it was your house, how would you So you take off your shoes and you enter the house. And after you have been there, as you're leaving, you come back to those shoes and you wear them and you leave the house. A hidden galactic workstation in the heartbeat of man. The poetry that neither God or man could breathe as. That's the power of the unknown. That at the edge of ideological certainty, suddenly the person goes back to the inner child. Sometimes I feel psychology is oscillating. That means sometimes in order to keep our memories alive, we require to remember. Sometimes I think like what happens to what happens to a person is not just because it's good or bad or they deserved it or not. It's as if their eyes need to get exposed to that phenomenology. You know, there was this Lion King. Imagine a descendant of the Lion King, you know, from the movie. This Lion King is walking at the edge of his kingdom, do you know, to see how the kingdom is. And this lion suddenly notices there's a fence and there's a bunch of sheep, and for the first time he sees something he's never seen before. He gets shocked as the king of his kingdom, and he sees that there's there in the middle of a crowd of sheep, there's a lion standing there, this grown-ass lion. And the Lion King is like, what the The Lion King goes there and shouts and says, "Lion!" And the lion doesn't respond. And this Lion King is shocked. This lion doesn't even know he's alive. And the Lion King says, "Sheep!" And all of them suddenly look. And this time the gaze of the lion in the middle of the sheep also looks. But this time all the sheep are afraid and they run back. Only the lion somehow, that lion that has been living his old life as a sheep, feels he somehow found a strength for a greater purpose of a better moment, you know. That means he doesn't get scared, but all the sheep do. The lion among the sheep. The Lion King commands the lion to come forth. And this lion, every day, the lion that thinks it's a sheep, has every day been just there fasting. It's like all the sheep are like, "Hey man, you don't want to eat the grass, you know?" And the lion's like, "No, I'm fasting, thank you." This sheep lion, you know, this lion that thinks he's a sheep, for the first time when the Lion King commands, it's a new event. It's as if every day has been the same loop, but suddenly something new. So the sheep lion goes forth. He trusts the unknown event that is taking place, and goes forth to attend to it. And there, the Lion King says, he takes that lion to the pond. And he tells the lion, "Look at yourself. Look at your reflection." And this lion that has lived the life of a sheep looks at the reflection, and the Lion King says, "What do you see?" And he says, "I see a sheep." And then the Lion King says, "Now look at my reflection in the water." And the what do you call it? The sheep lion looks at the and sees a lion, and he suddenly sees his reflection. He sees the lion's reflection, and he sees that he's a lion. And then roars of laughter can be heard. The moral of the story is that language is the second life that is not the real life, the linguistic simulation. If the person can be sincere and realize that it is okay to not know sometimes. Not all the time, I'm saying, but sometimes some things, when it comes to too complex, like the universe is too big to process, you know what I mean? So we reach a point where if we wanted to really think about, if I was to 24/7 think about the point of existence, I'd become a Nietzschean philosopher in less than 30 seconds. I have to constantly ground myself, pilot from the depth of the edge of the language threshold back to, I would say, the earth grounds. Guys, there's a quote I shared at the beginning for listeners who are new. Keep in mind, it's Aristotle says it's a sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. My whole thing is I'm saying that we, after being objects, we are living as subjects, moving objects, but the subject appears as an invisible viewer, the hard problem of consciousness, the mystery of it, do you know? And the object is what is in our attention, really. And I'm just saying that whether I say it, I'm an early bird, but whether I say it or anyone else says it in the future, inevitably, if we were to fast forward 1,000 years ahead, eventually 8 billion creatures are going to be like, what are we doing on this rock? I find that advanced civilization is the solution to, and this is a bold statement, but to the meaning of life for the immaterialist and the materialist. Pretty much all human beings on this planet, they're either divided in seeing causally the object first, then the subject, or causally seeing an unknown subject there, then an object. That is pretty much the division. Matter came first, then the immaterial. So the immaterial is actually a hallucination of matter, or the immaterial, unknown immaterial was here first, and matter is actually a mystery that was never material in the beginning. So there's these two modes, right? And I'm saying the immaterialist wants to escape the world. How many people do we know who want to go to heaven? Isn't it remarkable? Do you know? It's like people want to, it's like they haven't realized it took us a long time to get here, but people are focused on us getting out of here, do you know? So I would say the immaterialist is treating the realm as either nature's will or the divine will, if we consider the significance of the history of how ideologies have developed on this planet. That means from a language design level, like every word in the dictionary is there for some reason. It was there before I was born. Do you know what I mean? The concept of it's like how would I say? Okay, let me not move. Let me go back to it. So the immaterialist pretty much is under the impression on a personality level that an eternal being on a temporary, let us say, journey, and the materialist is seeing a temporary being which, what is evolution? An eternal urge for continuity. It is wanting to endlessly stick around. It's subconscious immortality. An urge for subconscious immortality. So from a materialistic perspective, there's no meaning. We're on a rock. Really, we're on a rock in the middle of space. And nowhere and now here are literally spelt the same. There's just a space in between. So from the materialistic perspective, an advanced civilization is the win-win. We win and the future wins. And if the future wins, that is technically our victory too. The point is that we are living as subjects to ourselves. That when the person closes their eyes, who is there? What is there? What is that content? You know? Why is it that we can visualize, let's say a person, whatever object, like, let's say you visualize a blue cube glowing, just in mid-air. Your eyes are open, you know? That visualization is accessible, but you can't pick up the cube in your hand. I can't visualize an apple pie and then take a bite out of it. But the design of the apple pie is accessible to the inner processing. Because really, we are either a hallucination of the void or we are a field of the whole thing, an intelligent field. I'm telling you, the mind is a word. And what has been happening is that there has been a constant level of existence. If you think about this, you see why I'm saying the linguistic simulation is hollow, why language has a hollowness. The truth is not in language, you know? And if the truth is set in language, then it is done. We're done. If we think language can contain truth, we're like, oh my God, all this universe was fit into a few letters on a page. And that constant existential level, I have been existing from the beginning of my birth, but how I have been experiencing this existence has been going from the conscious waking state, sleep, dream states, deep sleep state. Do you know? Pretty much I'm on a roller coaster ride of, oh, waking up to the day again. You know, oh, is this a dream? What is this? Oh, deep sleep, there's nothing there. Oh, another day, you know? Do you see the cyclical nature of this realm? And the coolest thing is that because it is unknown, we don't know how alive it is. We don't know if civilization is built on a turtle's back or not. You know, right now I am living in Toronto, Canada, and Canada, of course, is a very, I would say, blessed, it's a very blessed nation, you know? It has a strangely, anyways, I don't want to get into too much. Uh, the point I'm trying to make is that when I was in downtown Toronto, I can tell you that we have allowed a certain standard of we have in some sense individual impatience has rushed the world to a point where we have become blind to human nature. When I look at I go walk in the streets, you know, it's like how long are we going to just see rectangles? Do you know? It's like even the geometry of civilization, the body of civilization needs to change. I think there should be this law where no architectural building can be made as a platonic solid. You know, the solution to individual impatience is some sort of equation in the psyche of the person that sees that the collective is worth it. Living for the collective vision of the species. I mean, we have experienced individual suffering, we have experienced collective suffering, we have experienced individual success, but we have not experienced collective success. And if we declare what we see, like from the past, sure, if we look at the world from the past, yeah, we've come so far, yeah, you know, we're progress, yes, you know. But if we were to think about it from the future, we are so behind, we are eons behind, you know. Lao Tzu says there must be peace in the heart. Then there must be peace in the home. Then there must be peace in the neighborhood. Then there must be peace in the city. Then there must be peace in nations, among nations. Then the world is no longer in pieces. And peace doesn't mean a boring utopia where everybody's acting like some robotic artificial goodness. You know, it means that violence is out of the equation, but intensity in physical behavior can totally be directed towards cyberspace. Really, we are candles. We're all candles here. Every day happens once and the wax melts. You know, guys, I'm going to go into a quote tunnel of the word patience. Let's see how patient people have been in the past. You know, I hope to see the day where children in the future generations, they're like, you know, they go up to kids and they're like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "I want to engineer a sky city in the future." I'll be like, that would bring a tear to my eye, you know? There we go. Michelangelo. Genius is eternal patience. Samuel Johnson. Great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. How poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degrees? William Shakespeare. Not only will this make you treat each moment more preciously, but you will be more patient with yourself and with others, recognizing that there are millions of moments on the path to any worthwhile achievement. Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Helen Keller, we could never learn to be brave and patient if there were only joy in the world. Napoleon Hill. Patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Carl Jung. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better to take things as they come along with patience and equanimity. Paulo Coelho. I have seen many storms in my life. Most storms have caught me by surprise, so I had to learn very quickly to look further and understand that I am not capable of controlling the weather, to exercise the art of patience and to respect the fury of nature. Swami Shivananda. There is something good in all seeming failures. You are not to see that now. Time will reveal it. Be patient. Saint Francis de Sales. Have patience with all things, but first of all with yourself. That is the secret to mastery, guys. I'm not joking. That is the secret into achieving any skill. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to become like your own disciple. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. Joyce Mayer. I believe that a trusting attitude and a patient attitude go hand in hand. You see, when you let go and learn to trust God, it releases joy in your life. And when you trust God, you're able to be more patient. Patience is not just about waiting for something, it's about how you wait or your attitude while waiting. Albert Hubbard. How many a man has thrown up his hands at a time when a little more effort, a little more patience would have achieved success? Virgil. Just some dude named Virgil. I think it's I don't know from what era. I don't think it's ancient Greece though. Maybe. Come what may, all bad fortune is to be conquered by endurance. Yeah. So anytime something bad happens, endure. You know, we can. I just thought of a concept. You know, let's. I can attempt to create a concept here. Let's call it the enduration. One word. Enduration. The word duration and end having the same letter. I think nobody in language has named this phenomena where you can have two words where they are linked with the same letter. Do you know? So it would be, for example, this and duration would be one. Uh, um, let's say we take the word sit and we take the word time and they have the same T, so it becomes sit time. Like that could be, do you see what I mean? It's like these words that can suddenly link because they have the same common letter, either at the beginning or at the end. We can call this phenomena an alphabetic singularity, as if each letter is uh, it's like the it's like the singular link. So I guess we gotta have the word link in there. So let's say these are letter linked words. There we go. Letter linked words. Letter dash linked words. We should create this concept. I don't know. Somebody who's hearing this talk, go do something about this. Letter linked words is a suggestion. Again, perfect. Just incredibly, I can't believe I found an imperfect name for this concept. Words that are two different words that are connected with one letter in common. To continue with the quote tunnel, Michael Jordan, I'm patient. Isaac Newton, if I have done the public any service, it is due to my patient thought. William Shakespeare says, no, I will be the pattern of all patience, I will say nothing. Wow, that sentence is, I will be the pattern of all patience. Just take that in. That when you are patient, you are perceiving all patterns to some degree, or more patterns than before. Heraclitus, good character is not formed in a week or a month. It is created little by little, day by day. Protracted and patient effort is needed to develop good character. Soren Kierkegaard, patience is necessary, and one cannot reap immediately where one has sown. It's like, can you imagine a person plants a seed and the person comes the next day and shouts at the seed, and it's like, seed, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you a tree yet? And the seed is like, slow down, man, it takes time. So that's the thing, you know. Patience is really learning to notice nature and more angles of it. Francis Bacon says, whoever is out of patience is out of possession of their soul. Julius Caesar, it is easier to find men who will volunteer to die than to find those who are willing to endure pain with patience. Rudyard Kipling, heaven grant us patience with a man in love. Okay. Elon Musk says patience is a virtue, and I'm learning patience. It's a tough lesson. Honestly, Elon Musk should just have like kind of what I'm doing here. I hope one day Elon Musk does something similar, where we see the inner realms of great efforts, really. Because here's the thing, the whole of reality is not like nobody knows what will happen. That's the cool thing of it, you know. But while we are something in the conscious waking state, the mind can wonder. And as it wonders, inevitably, if it wants to work, you gotta utilize a system. So I have to make a choice before I say an idea, but it doesn't mean the person doesn't have access to multiple levels of the idea, you know. I remember I wrote a sentence. Honestly, Elon Musk is one of those people who I don't know if he knows this consciously, but it's like I think he was he caused a lot of people to go towards engineering. I wrote the sentence, go further, Elon, you Musk, with a exclamation point, you know. You know what it is? I think the issue, so many people think that the capitalistic system is an issue. But I would say it's not the system that's an issue, it's what's happening in the system that's an issue. Because any system is just a system implemented, but it's its result and consequence. And I was thinking that it's one of those things where it's not it's like a battle between the ethical nature of institutions between one another. That means it's like the person is like, just imagine a person standing in a park. Now imagine giant robots fighting. You know, I see in some sense the different markets out there. Pretty much all those people who check Nasdaq, they check the Nasdaq and whatever. Like the whole thing is, it's like to see the climate of how the world has changed since yesterday. Okay. Thomas Aquinas says to bear with patience. Wrongs done to oneself is a mark of perfection, but to bear with patience wrongs done to someone else is a mark of imperfection and even of actual sin. You see, guys, there is this thing where I would say there is sometimes an advantage to individual pride. Because sometimes it's like if imagine if 8 billion creatures were like, how dare something happen to my species? Like, do you see that mentality? It's the same as, it's like, how dare something happen to my family, you know? But it's like, when we can get there somehow in the psychological disposition of the collective psyche, we just max out our sincere efforts, and the realm marches forth more efficiently. Ambrose Bierce says, patience, a minor form of despair disguised as virtue. Joyce Mayer, patience is not simply the ability to wait, it's how we behave while we're waiting. Thomas Carlyle says endurance is patience concentrated. John Ruskin says endurance is nobler than strength, and patience than beauty. That means the beautiful required to learn from the patient, and the strong need to learn from the nobility of endurance. Pretty much not fearing the event. Imagine there was this person, guys, a hypothetical situation. Imagine there was this person, and in a gathering, and the people in that gathering, let us say, how would I say this? People are let's say there's a group of people, they're discussing fear. Now, one by one, they're asking each other, hey man, do you have fear? And one of them's like, of course, man, I'm human, I have fear. And the other one's like, yeah, me too, man, I was afraid to get out of the house this day. And the other's just there. And then it comes to one of them, and they're like, hey man, do you fear? And the person's like, do I what? And the person's like, do you fear? And the person's like, what are you saying? Do I what? Like, the person's not hearing it. Then the other was like, hey man, are you kidding me? It's like, do you know what I mean? And the whole time the guy's not hearing it. And they're like, it's as if this guy is fearless by choice. He is fearless because the concept of fear doesn't exist. It's just information in a certain way. Francois de la Rochefoucauld says, we have no patience with other people's vanity because it is offensive to our own. Thomas Fuller says, all commend patience, but none can endure to suffer. Abused patience turns to fury. Thomas Fuller. Abused patience turns to fury. That's definitely an interesting way of saying it. As if the person has been ignored, and that ignorance makes the person want to arise. Ovid says, bear patiently with a rival. Arnold H. Glazo says the key to everything is patience. You get the chicken by hatching the egg, not by smashing it. Oh my God. William Penn says patience and diligence, like faith, remove mountains. I could see that being true if you were a Photoshop artist and you wanted to remove a mountain, like from a bunch of mountains from the Photoshop picture, and your computer suddenly froze and you just had to wait it out. Yeah, patience and diligence definitely can remove mountains. Peter Marshall says, teach us, O Lord, the disciplines of patience, for to wait is often harder than to work. John Dryden says, beware the fury of a patient man. Robert H. Schuller says, never cut a tree down in the winter time. Never make a negative decision in the low time. Never make your most important decisions when you are in your worst moods. Wait, be patient. The storm will pass, the spring will come. And what that means is to put the right effort at the right time, so at least we can have, like we see, that technically our free will is implementing patterns which we wake up to and we are still familiar. It's familiar to us. We are evoking our life into meaning by moving. William Golding says, he who rides the sea of the Nile must have sails woven of patience. James Russell Lowell says, endurance is the crowning quality, and patience all the passion of great hearts. Lawrence J. Peter, fortune knocks but once, but misfortune has much more patience. John Burroughs says, for anything worth having, one must pay the price, and the price is always work, patience, love, self-sacrifice, no paper currency, no promises to pay, but the gold of real service. Simon Wells says, humility is attentive patience. Jesse Jackson says, I'm not a perfect servant. I'm a public servant doing my best against the odds as I develop and serve. Be patient. God is not finished with me yet. I read everything. What else is there on this list? Homer, wise to resolve and patient to perform. Joseph Addison, our real blessings often appear to us in the shape of pains, losses, and disappointments, but let us have patience and we soon shall see them in their proper figures. John Quincy Adams, patience and perseverance have a magical effect before which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish. I mean, the whole point of patience is you're just getting more information before you make a decision. It's just settling down in observance, then becoming mobile as an animate individual. Charles Caleb Colton says, patience is the support of weakness, impatience the ruin of strength. Simon, well, humility is attentive patience, and that's the end of the list, guys. How many quotes was that? Maybe like 50. Okay. So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Really, the whole effort of this episode was to say that if the individual, we can change the algorithm. If the individual becomes patient, and we discriminate between our inner realms and outer realms, and we can remain watchful of our moment and keep active a dimension of pure attention in the inner realms and pure, I would say, we have alert, we have attention, we should have alert attention alertion. Let's create a word, call it alertion. Attention, let's treat it as a word for the inner realms, originating from the within, and alertion being attention in the outer. Pretty much the person has to look at how objects are, then notice how subjects are, then notice how the subjects and objects are correlated, then notice how the subject and object are absent, then remain in that absence. Then as one notices that absence, one realizes absence has nothing to lose or nothing to gain. And that's when the true patience for the unknown arrives, where the person is not searching. It's like literally you haven't, like a seeker, a truth seeker is like pressing random buttons on a keyboard. But what I'm saying, like the advanced communicator is first watching the moment, as if you just teleported into this world and you have no previous context. You're watching the moment. You are actually daring to see how far you can see, really. There's this story, a group of fish, these students of fishism, these fish, these very intellectual fish, they go to this very wise, older, kind of mystical sage of a fish. You know, it's a sage fish. Okay, let's keep going. All these younger fish go to this older fish, and they're like, hey, older fish, you know, you seem to have realized something we haven't. What is this truth? What is this God? Or let's say they, instead of the God, let's say there was a fish long ago that came and said ocean, you know, in the books. And these fish have come to the sage and are like, hey, fish, what's this ocean? What is this ocean? What is this God? You know? And the older fish gets up and says, guys, it is within you, it is without you, it is everywhere. If something happens, it's the currents of the ocean, it's the will of the ocean, the will of the divine. Do you know, if you're outside of the current, it's the will, do you know? And it's as if like, do you see there's something like that? And what does that mean? That means it's inconceivable to the fish, the idea of the ocean. And so what I really, after this story, I heard this story, I wondered about really human beings and what I have personally experienced, regardless of the story to give it. And I would say really this is it, that space is not empty and there are living currents. There are living currents, just like a fish in an ocean goes in a current. Oh my God, I'm so advanced, I'm so enlightened, you know, and the fish comes out of the current. It's like, oh my God, what happened? So what it is these are intelligent currents, and I feel that's what the logos is. And these intelligent currents are attributeless. They can be endless. You see how in certain ancient shrines, gods had multiple faces, and you'd be like, why do they need a god with a bunch of faces? Like, why wasn't one face enough for a god? But the reason they had different faces for the god, I realized, is it was incredible, I would say, If you're fascinated by architecture, you kind of realize this. Like, it meant that God was in 3 dimensions. The 3 faces was like a trio dimensionality. We have dimension, let's call it tremension. Language is so malleable, really. So much is still unknown. And to limit the whole search through one method is the same thing that I find um, was 6th century ignorance. Do you know? That means the point is not right or wrong, because a person could say, hey, this is the right thing, and the person can become distracted from the actual situation that's going on. So we have to have a dimension also beyond our morality. Decisions should not be limited to just morality, but also that every moment has hidden blind spots. And an advanced civilization really would be where everybody is taking care of everybody's blind spots, or an advanced AI program is doing that. I don't know. Like, it's like the blind spots are. It's like we're too busy. Here, I remember telling the story in one of my talks, like a while ago. It was I said, imagine we have ushered towards civilization 2.0, and we are building this advanced civilization. Okay. Now imagine, as we're building this, we're so like occupied. Suddenly, an alien invasion wants to happen. This extraterrestrial advanced civilization wants to invade, and they come by, and they're like, why aren't the human beings like getting their guns and defenses and their military getting ready to for like our alien invasion? The aliens are shocked. They're like, why aren't human beings responding to us? You know, we're about to take over them. And so the aliens come down and they tap on the shoulder of a human being, and it's like, hey, why aren't you guys acknowledging us? And the human being looks at the alien and he's like, buddy, we don't have time. We've already realized energy can't die. You know? You know? We're busy. Go somewhere else. And imagine that advanced alien invasion that wants to happen. The alien like leader is like, what the fuck? And it's as if these guys are actually too busy, that as if the alien civilization becomes curious. It's as if like everything in the universal sector, if there is, if Fermi's paradox was in some sense a suggestion on another edge. But I will tell you, like, it would be a situation where we would say, if there was intelligence beyond human, and if it was bound by some moral system, the universe is watching how far the human being can watch the universe. We are like, the whole species is like the protagonist of every story ever when it comes to the universal void. The truth of life is that life is true now. And so if there is patience, a new effort of the species will arrive. It's like, enough with the linguistic finger pointing. Build the advanced civilization already. You know. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. I'm going to relocate, but I'm going to be on Discord for those interested. And the end will, without a beginning, cannot exist. Bless.